Picture this. The lights dim, the crowd roars, and inside the octagon, two men who have trained together for nearly their entire lives suddenly face off as opponents. Islam Makhachev versus his coach, his brother, his mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's the fight that will never happen in reality. But if it did, could the student actually surpass the master? Could Islam, the reigning lightweight champion, defeat the legendary undefeated Eagle of Dagestan? Today, we're breaking down exactly how Islam Makhachev could beat Khabib Nurmagomedov in a real fight. To understand why this matchup is so fascinating, you first have to understand Khabib's dominance. Khabib retired in 2020 with a flawless record of 29 wins and 0 losses. He didn't just win, he destroyed his opponents, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, Rafael dos Anjos, all world-class fighters, and all made to look completely helpless when Khabib got them to the ground. His style was built on pressure, relentless forward movement, takedown attempts that didn't stop after one try. He would shoot, chain into another attempt, drag you to the fence, wrap up your legs, and slowly drown you with his weight and control. Khabib's greatness wasn't just physical, it was mental. Fighters entered the cage already knowing what was coming. The takedown, the smothering top control, and yet none of them could stop it. But for all his dominance, Khabib's striking was limited. Yes, he dropped McGregor with an overhand. Yes, he improved over time, but Khabib's striking was a means to an end, something to disguise the shot. His bread and butter was always grappling. Now let's shift to Islam Makhachev. Born in Makhachkala, Dagestan, Islam grew up under the same system as Khabib. Both trained under Khabib Nurmagomedov, Khabib's father, who was known as a mastermind in combat sambo and wrestling. Islam was, in many ways, groomed to be Khabib's successor. Early in his UFC career, Islam faced doubts. He suffered a knockout loss to Adriano Martins, which made some fans question if he could ever reach the heights of his teammate. But Islam bounced back. He evolved. He added layers to his game. Fast forward to today, Islam is the reigning lightweight champion and widely considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. He's beaten elite names like Charles Oliveira and Alexander Volkanovski, not only with his grappling, but with striking that shocked the MMA community. That's the key difference. While Khabib was a grappler who could strike, Islam is a complete fighter. Let's break down their strengths side by side. Khabib Nurmagomedov, elite wrestling and sambo, relentless pressure, unshakable cardio, and mental toughness, ground and pound that overwhelms. But weaknesses included limited striking, predictability. You knew he was going to wrestle. Islam Makhachev, strong wrestling base, almost on par with Khabib. Elite submission game, especially from scrambles. Southpaw striking with power and precision. Versatility. He can win standing or on the ground. His weakness? While his chin has held up, we have seen him rocked, especially against Volkanovski. He doesn't have Khabib's same relentless chaos. He's more measured, which could give Khabib opportunities. Now, let's imagine the actual fight. Round 1, the cage clash. The opening round would be a battle for dominance. Khabib immediately pressures forward, looking for the clinch and takedown. Against most fighters, they'd already be trapped. But Islam has spent his entire life defending those exact entries. He knows how Khabib chains his takedowns. He knows the setups. For the first time in his career, Khabib may find himself unable to ragdoll someone. Islam's balance, hip strength, and ability to circle off the fence would keep the fight standing longer than Khabib is used to. Round 2, the striking game. This is where Islam shines. Khabib's striking is effective but basic. Islam, on the other hand, uses feints, kicks, and straight punches down the middle. He's more fluid, more technical, and his southpaw stance creates angles Khabib never had to worry about against guys like Gaethje or Poirier. If Islam keeps Khabib at range, he could pepper him with jabs, left hands, and body kicks. Over time, that damage would add up. Round 3, the ground battle. Of course, Khabib would eventually get him down, but unlike other opponents, Islam wouldn't fold. He's comfortable off his back, he threatens submissions, and he knows how to scramble back to his feet. This would frustrate Khabib, who is used to total control. The more Khabib shoots and fails, the more tired he gets. Islam, meanwhile, stays fresh, mixing in his own takedown attempts to keep Khabib guessing. Championship rounds, cardio and evolution. Both men are cardio machines, but here's the difference. Khabib never had to deal with a fighter who could match him everywhere. Islam is that fighter. By rounds 4 and 5, Islam's striking edge, his versatility, and his ability to neutralize takedowns would start to take over. Khabib would still have moments, but Islam's complete game gives him more ways to win. To really understand this matchup, look at how they performed against top competition. Khabib dominated strikers like Conor and Gaethje, but both lacked elite defensive grappling. Islam, however, is an elite grappler himself. Khabib's toughest fight was against Gleison Tibau, who stuffed most of his takedowns. Islam could replicate and improve on that with better striking. Islam dominated Charles Oliveira, who many thought would test him on the ground. He showed patience, control, and striking that Khabib never displayed. Against Volkanovski, Islam showcased adaptability, knocking him out in the rematch, proving his striking is now world-class. When you stack those performances side by side, Islam looks like the evolution of Khabib. Part 6. The mental game. One of Khabib's biggest weapons was his mental dominance. Fighters admitted they felt broken before the fight even started. With Islam, that wouldn't work. He's trained with Khabib his entire life. He knows exactly what's coming. That familiarity changes everything. The intimidation factor disappears. Instead, you get a chess match. And Islam thrives in those situations. Final verdict. So who wins? If we're talking prime Khabib, the version who retired at 29-0, versus prime Islam, it's close. But Islam's ability to strike, to defend takedowns, and to create offense from everywhere gives him the edge. Khabib was the blueprint. Islam is the upgrade. And sometimes, the evolution beats the original. Closing. So what do you think? Would Islam Makhachev really be able to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov? Or would the master still dominate the student even in his prime? At the end of the day, this matchup is more than just a fantasy fight. It's the ultimate question of legacy versus evolution. Khabib Nurmagomedov built the foundation. He created the style that changed MMA forever. Relentless wrestling, suffocating control, and an undefeated record that may never be touched. His legacy is etched in stone. But Islam Makhachev represents the next chapter. He took everything Khabib taught him and added his own layers, sharper striking, more variety, and the ability to finish fights anywhere. He's proof that the Dagestani system isn't just dominant, it's still evolving. So if these two ever stood across from each other, it wouldn't just be a fight. It would be a story of teacher versus student, past versus future, and the eternal debate of whether the original masterpiece can ever be surpassed. But that's the beauty of MMA. The what-if conversations keep the sport alive long after the fights are over. And whether you believe Khabib remains untouchable or that Islam has surpassed him, one thing is certain, their names will forever be linked in history, because sometimes the master creates a student so great, he just might be the only one capable of beating him.